So much of Scotland's freshwater starts its land-based journey in the bog. And the Highlands contain by far the greatest area of open blanket bog in Britain. Dotting these saturated, peaty expanses are lochs and pools of dark water, which despite the harsh chemistry, are a rich breeding ground for various invertebrates. So join me as I dive into these little habitats and take a closer look at what lives in them.
My name's Feargus, and this is the middle of nowhere.
Well, this is a bleak place. I have set up my camp right in the heart of the flow country in the far north. It's quite a contrast to the scenery and the clarity of waters in my previous video. This is the last of my freshwater snorkeling videos for this season. And from the start, I've felt that it's pretty important to include at least one video of this kind of place, because there's so much open blanket bog in Scotland and it is saturated. It's just absolutely filled with water. It's a massive, massive source of fresh water in terms of catchment. And in lots and lots of places there are ponds and lochs and even larger lochs. My original plan was actually to stop about almost a kilometre further back than this at a bigger loch until I spotted that there was a dam holding the water back, and artificial lochs don't count. So this is a much more typical kind of loch anyway. It's smaller than the other one, but it's more typical of this kind of environment, and it has the double bonus of having a whole string of little ponds leading out of it to the south, which I can also have a look in and see what lives in there tomorrow. The moon is about to come up quite soon, and I was really hoping to get some clear weather. I'm not too optimistic about it because it's coming up in eclipse, and I love eclipses. So it's going to be a blood moon coming up over the horizon in just a short while, because the sun is going down and the moon comes up at about the same time when it's full, and then it will come out of eclipse over the next couple of hours. But I'll keep popping my head out and have a look. So yes, one more trip with my giant bag before the onset of autumn. I think it's time for some dinner now, and the snorkeling will take place tomorrow morning when the sun is supposed to be out properly. It's about 10 o'clock, first view of the moon, and the eclipse is all over, earlier than I was expecting. Oh well, next time. I think it's over a year before there's another chance. Never mind. I'll read a little bit and then I will go to sleep. I will see you lot in the morning. How frustrating.
You know the way when you're in the wilderness and sometimes you just get to this really nice body of water and you look at it and you think, wow, that looks so inviting. I really want to get in and get refreshed. This isn't one of those times. Well, this is real bog snorkeling.
Well, that was a interesting experience. The kind of way that I would imagine it is to go snorkeling in a giant bowl of vegetable soup. I am going to try the smaller pools because they look to be actually, surprisingly, somewhat clearer. I guess the sphagnum moss, which is the dominant plant species across the bog, which is growing on the shore, on the rim of these pools, has a way of sucking up some of the staining that's otherwise in the water. So let's try that. So, unsurprisingly, to me at least, it turns out that snorkeling in the dark, peat-stained lochs and ponds of the bog is quite challenging. It's really challenging to get any kind of visibility at all. The big one was a complete waste of time to a certain extent. It's interesting to see just how murky the water is, but I didn't see anything alive. And swimming around, or at least moving myself, I don't know how to call it, but dragging myself through the mud in the smaller ones was a lot better, but still I didn't see much moving around. But I did manage to catch a couple of things with a combination of my net and several bottle traps, which I put down in both the big loch, well, lochen, and the ponds before I got in the water. So they've been in there waiting for things to come into them for a couple of hours. And I am delighted with what I found. Although it seems like such a nasty place for aquatic life because there is so much acid leaking from the peat into the water, and the water is so poor in nutrients that it would be very difficult for things like fish and things that are really sensitive to water quality to live in them. But despite that, they're a real stronghold for invertebrates, things like dragonflies and damselflies, which breed in the water, or as I have here, these big swimming things are back swimmers, and they are pretty sizable. I mean, they're about 2 centimeters long and getting on for 3 centimeters across the leg span. When you look at the extended back legs, which they use for swimming, which have little hairs on them in order to propel themselves through the water, they belong to the same group of animals as aphids or shield bugs and stuff like that. And I think they're really very, very interesting. They got these beautiful little red eyes, and they can colonize these pools because they're able to fly. Same goes for the diving beetles. Now, as you might have gathered from my Applecross video, I love diving beetles. I find them fascinating. And I have got several types of diving beetle. So I don't know actually what species these ones are here, but they are absolutely fascinating. And I've only seen them a couple of times. They're quite sizable as well. Also belonging to the same group as the diving beetles are the whirligig beetles. You can see this one darting around here, and they get their name from the way that they swim. So they tend to sit on the surface of the water and just kind of swirl around when they get disturbed. And the rest of the time they tend to be quite calm. I mean, it's actually stopped moving now. But the piece of resistance. So this is the time of year when you get the adults moving around. I have caught several of these. This is a great diving beetle. Magnificent insects. And great diving beetles are one of Britain's largest insects. And according to the all-knowing internet, they're very rare in the far north, but I have just caught tons of them, most of which I had to put back because there were just too many for me to have a look at, but I've held on to 5 or 6 just to have them in here for a few minutes so that we can get a good look at them. Extremely smooth, graceful, and they can even fly, just like the backswimmers. They have wings underneath their wing cases, and that's how they colonize new habitats, move from one to another. Their back legs have evolved a set of bristles, hairs along the side of them, which grab the water, because when you're this small, the resistance of the water is a lot higher than it is if you're a bigger animal. And that means that they can use those legs with hairs like paddles to propel themselves through the water quite fast. And they are aggressive and quite vicious predators. Is that one trying to bite the bigger one? Oi, oi, what do you think you're doing? You're crazy. Seems like the smaller ones are trying to eat the bigger ones. How bizarre. I've never seen one, but I've read that the larvae of the great diving beetles can be up to 6 centimeters long. So that makes it perhaps the largest insect in Britain, although it's probably not quite as big as the giant stag beetle. Anyhow, they are such magical animals to watch as they go about their business. Absolutely fascinating. Okay, a little break out of the incessant wind while I wait for my neoprene to dry somewhat. Then I can pack up and go. I just wanted to give people a quick heads up about developments, as I did in a previous video, in terms of my videos and photography over the coming months. So this year, for the first time since I started making YouTube videos, I'm going to be making a calendar. And that calendar is going to be going up on sale very soon. I put up a poll a couple of weeks ago in time for the previous video asking people if you're interested in buying one of my calendars, because photography is a big thing for me in most of my videos, and I started out as a stills photographer before getting into video later on. So the calendars are going to be pictures of my landscapes of the Scottish wilderness, and I am in 2 minds about whether to do a standard format, so 6x4 format, which is more traditional, or a panoramic landscape format. So if people are interested in buying a calendar on the run up to Christmas, they make great Christmas presents as well as things for yourself, then go to the community page, which is right here on my YouTube channel, and have a look at my last few posts. And along there somewhere is a little poll asking people whether they prefer the traditional format or the panoramic format. And it would be great to get people's thoughts on what you prefer. Another thing which I'm starting to do this winter and will be going in perpetuity is selling prints that I produce on high quality archival paper, and you can buy those and then I will send them out to you signed in a roll, and then they can be framed or whatever you want to do with it and mounted on your wall. So for that you need to go to my website, and the link to my website is in the description below this video. So check that out if you'd be interested in having one of my landscapes on your wall. And finally, one thing that I am trying to get into starting this winter, and I hope to do more often as time goes on, as the word gets out, is public talks. So I am an experienced public speaker. I have given all kinds of outreach events, particularly about biosciences and invertebrates, to schools. I've also been a university lecturer for several years, and I'm available to come and give talks, whether it's about my Scottish expeditions, my freshwater endeavours, my international expeditions, mental health and the outdoors. I've got a whole range of things. You can see the things that I've specialised in and the experience that I have, again, by going to the About page on my website. And so if you are a member of a club, a mountaineering club, a outdoor club, a school teacher, university lecturer, whatever, and you're interested in having me come and give a talk, then don't hesitate to get in touch. Again, go to my website and it won't be hard to find the relevant link. I'll put actually a direct link in the description below this video so that you can find out more, and I'd love to hear from you, and I would love to talk to whoever you might have in mind. Always takes me longer to get out of the bog than I think it's going to. Actually, it always takes me longer to get back to the car no matter where I go, because I am carrying something like 25 to 30 kilos on these trips. So I kind of make my estimates based on carrying a normal load, but never mind. I wanted to leave the video and this series of videos, the last 6 including this one, where I have been going to various freshwater snorkeling locations, beautiful locations, mostly remote locations, with a little bit of advice for anyone who might want to do this sort of thing themselves. It's not rocket science. It's simpler, really, in the vast majority of places, certainly if you're snorkeling in natural lochs or lakes, than it is to go snorkeling in the sea. But because I'm going to some very, very remote areas, very isolated places, and each loch is like its own little ecological island, it's very important to keep it that way. So I sterilize my gear between trips just to make sure that I don't carry things from one part of the country to another. We all need to look after our fresh water. You know, there have been lots of headlines in the news over the last couple of years about the sorry state of freshwater habitats in England and Wales, and less so up here in Scotland. But as far as I'm aware, it's pretty bad in a lot of areas. And really, it's shocking to learn all of this, because fresh water is something which is so precious and occupies such a tiny percentage of the surface of this island. I mean, in England, it's less than 1%. In Scotland, it's about 2%. But we rely on it entirely. You know, it might be an island and we might be surrounded by water, but we can't drink the stuff that surrounds us, and we can't clean ourselves or our things with the stuff that surrounds us. We rely on this extremely precious resource which we need to look after. So that's my preaching message. For those of you who have been with me for all 6 videos, thanks for sticking with it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've picked up a hell of a lot of new subscribers, so welcome to you all over the summer. And as for the people who have been with me for most of the time that I've been posting videos, thank you very much for sticking with me, and I'm really glad that you're still enjoying what I have to offer. The next few weeks for me are a bit all over the place, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get out and make another video on time. But because of personal events over the summer, I do have one in my back pocket. I did an interview with a fairly well-known outdoor personality, so more than likely that is going to be the next one to come up, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get out again in time to make one to stick to my kind of self-imposed schedule. So have a think about calendars. If anybody wants to book me for a talk, as I said, please do. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber already, please hit the subscribe button. Share the video or the channel with anybody you think who might also be interested in this sort of stuff. And happy autumn. I will see you all as soon as I can. Until then, take it easy and enjoy the outdoors, as long as it hasn't started absolutely hammering it down with rain already.